Welcome to Season 2 of the Project Hope podcast. I'm your host, Jennifer. As many of you know, I am a cult survivor myself. For anyone interested, you can hear the story of how I got in and how I got out in Season 1, Episodes 1 and 2. The beginning of this year, 2023, actually marks my 11 years of being out, and I am so super grateful for the ways my life has unfolded since. I now work with survivors of coercive control, and I'm going to take a moment here to define this term, as one of my heart's desires is to help society at large better understand coercive control in cases that are not just culty, but across the globe. I view coercive control as a social issue. It's at the heart of cases where women and girls are murdered. We find coercive control in one-to-one relationships that are intimate, in gangs, sex trafficking, and cults of all types. I have a master's in the psychology of coercive control, and I'm just beginning a new element of my career as an expert witness for legal cases that involve coercive control. As a certified trauma professional, I work with survivors. I'm especially excited to be offering a group survivor program for cult and religious abuse recovery. So this is not a support group, but rather a healing program. It's based on my certification in the incredible work of Dr. Jilly Jenkinson, who gathered decades of research on survivors to create a body of work that I would consider to be the most comprehensive and flexible approach I've come across in this field. We will meet every other week for 6 months, and registration will open in February of 2023 for those interested. Lastly, I am also a research associate at Salford University and explore topics related to coercive control. So let's jump back into a basic understanding of coercive control before I introduce the next episode. Coercive control is a strategic pattern of behavior designed to exploit, control, create dependency, and dominate. The victim's everyday existence is micromanaged, and their space for action, as well as potential as a human being, is limited and controlled by the abuser. Initially, the victim may be drawn into the relationship with love bombing and charm. Then gaslighting, isolation, economic control, and financial abuse can take place alongside rules and regulations that are gradually introduced over time and change at the whim of the abuser. The victim knows there are consequences if rules are broken, and they apply to the victim rather than the perpetrator, creating a double standard. Over time, coercively controlling behavior erodes the victim's sense of self, their confidence, self-esteem, agency, and autonomy. The abuser creates an unreal world of contradiction, confusion, and fear. It may be helpful to know that 51% of victims do not even know that they are being abused, manipulated, and controlled. Coercive control correlates significantly to serious harm, and in many cases, in intimate partner violence, it precedes homicide. These can be difficult topics to grapple with, so I truly hope that this podcast helps to protect you and those you love with helpful voices and information. If you appreciate the podcast, please let us know by subscribing and comment with kindness. And always think critically, trust your intuition, and be free. Welcome to the Project Hope podcast and this episode where we have the gift of hosting Kathleen. As you will hear, we have decided to use only Kathleen's first name to create a little protection for her identity. Kathleen is a whistleblower on what she refers to as the Maum meditation cult. To date, there's not a lot of information that's out there about the aspects of Maum that are very unhealthy and are harming and trapping people in the practice. Kathleen does a really nice job guiding us through so many of the red flag markers that I'm sure will help those searching for information on Maum meditation. But also for others listening, this case is a really strong example of a group that one may not identify as culty right away. For example, you hear Kathleen refer to her initial encounters with Maum as more one-to-one meetings and meditations. You will hear, though, how the teachings, alongside the constant meditation, will lead individuals to isolate from information, cut off from themselves and their families, and then, of course, there's the financial abuse. Kathleen was part of Maum meditation from 2015 to 2017. She reached level 4 when she decided to leave the organization. It was the gift of someone sharing information with her that allowed her to identify that something was very wrong. And it is from this spirit that Kathleen is now giving back in hopes that her sharing might allow others to be free as well. In this part 1 of the 2-part episode, you will hear Kathleen's experience and her insights that we hope might help to protect others. Please follow at Maum Cult, which is spelled MAUMCULT, on Instagram, where you can also reach out to her. All information is in the show notes as well. And in addition, I'm so delighted with so many of you who have reached out to inquire about the Cult and Religious Recovery Group program that I'm offering for the first time in April. I will include that information in the show notes as well for the next few weeks. And on that note, welcome to part 1 with Kathleen on Maum meditation. So welcome, Kathleen, to the Project Hope podcast. It is such a pleasure to have you with us today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm excited. Yes. A little bit nervous, but I think I'm good.
Yeah. And so just for our audience, what's a little more unique and kind of special about this interview is that Kathleen really also is sort of carrying this role of whistleblower on this meditation group. And so, that can be a little nerve-wracking, and just wondering, Kathleen, kind of how you're feeling about that.
Yes, I feel at peace about coming forward with, some of the things I know about Maum meditation. I feel so this organization is a little bit tricky. That's why there's not a lot of information on the internet about them. There's a lot of stories by former members, but a lot of people don't feel comfortable with coming out and just spilling everything they know about them, because they have all your information, they know where you live, and everything that goes with when you sign up for the meditation. They have your credit cards, your address, your name, all your information, your family too. So I think that's why a lot of people don't feel comfortable. But for me, I think it's necessary, just because there's not that much information out there about them. So I'm happy to do it.
Yeah, thank you, Kathleen. And just respecting that can be a bit of a nerve-wracking position to be in. And it also tells me, obviously, having met you prior to this and having been able to spend some time with you, that I really just so feel you coming from a deep place of sincerity and kind of concern for others who might kind of stumble into this. And so also just kind of honoring that really is where, this interview and the desire to be in this interview is coming from, which is not easy. It's not an easy step to take. Interesting, and we might, get to this, but I'm curious about what you said with them having information. Is there any part of you that's kind of felt like repercussions might be taken, or that there's a danger in having them have people's information?
So I've had former members tell me, and I've experienced this myself when I left the group, that they bombard you with like calls, and it's just really intense. And I've had other members tell me that they show up at your house to, at first it's probably just to try to convince you to come back, but it just makes you a little nervous because those extremes it's shocking to you if that they don't respect your decision to just part ways with them. So I don't know of any of them doing anything, other than that, like crazier than that. But I think that's just what, if you've been with Maum meditation, you feel that concern when you leave them, because obviously they don't like that you leave the organization. And then on top of that, if you start sharing the secrets, because everything's very secretive about them, you're not supposed to tell. Even in the group, you're not supposed to speak to other level members about what you're going through. So obviously you can't speak to like outsiders about everything that you do in Maum meditation. So that they're not going to like that you speak out and you say everything, the levels and everything that goes with Maum meditation. So it just, you're a little bit nervous about that, since they have all your information. But I'm not really nervous anymore. I've moved from the address they had, so I'm not too nervous about that. I'm still in the state, but I'm not where they have my information. I've moved since then, so that's why I'm a little bit more relieved. And I've waited because I barely moved last year, so I'm more comfortable with sharing everything now that they don't really know where I live anymore.
Oh, yeah. And Kathleen, I'm just so sorry about that. I mean, honestly, to even have that pressure, and of course, let's just call it what it is, that even considering for the members to know enough that they have to consider that someone might show up at their place if they leave is honestly a form of intimidation,
Yes.
A silent threat, really. And that's really scary. I mean, you are right now, from my perspective, you are being very diplomatic and sound very balanced in the way that you're expressing your experience. But I can only imagine, to feel relieved that you've moved from the address so that they can't track you. That's a big deal. Anybody who's had a similar experience to that, whether it's a domestic situation or, any form of feeling like you're being tracked by somebody, is just a terrible, terrible feeling and way to live. So,
yes, for sure. It's definitely intense. That's why I always tell, members that are trying to leave, because I speak to a few members, around all the time. And I'm just like, just try to do it the best way. Just, even if you have to lie to them and just say that, you're moving, or make up anything to just leave in peace with them, and don't, because I didn't leave peacefully. I had an argument with them when I left. So I'm like, if you can avoid that at all costs, then you will feel better once you leave, that they don't have any grudges against you, since they do have all your information.
Wonderful advice, Kathleen. Thank you. And I'm sure those who are listening and potential, Maum meditation people who are in or wanting to get out will find that advice very helpful. Yeah.
Yes.
Learning through experience, so to speak.
Right.
So, so that's a really nice segue into your story. And so would you mind just letting us know a little bit about kind of how you began and even got involved?
Okay, yes. So I joined Mom Meditation in 2015, and I was in for 2 years before I left. I went with my mom. So she found out about the place by she had received a flyer, and their main marketing is doing flyer distribution. But they also now they're online, and now they've gone another level with their marketing. But back then they would just leave flyers at like businesses like laundromats or restaurants anywhere. And it was, there are these cute flyers that say, just meditation and, find happiness and everything. And at that moment, we were kind of going through a lot. So my mom was looking for something that would help us, our relationship. So we went. They offer to everybody, they offer a free introduction. So that's obviously their marketing tactic as well, it's to put free there, but it's definitely not free. So we decided to just go and see what it was about. And we went, and we were greeted by the helper. So that's something I think is important to know, a little bit of the language that they use. So helper means basically the teacher of that particular center. So each center has two helpers that you can basically think like they're like the managers of that center. So they manage everything. And then they have a student or a couple students that they're called students, but they're already people that have been completed. Basically, have already went through the whole process and completed themselves. And they come back to the centers to prepare themselves to become one day a helper. So that's more to learn like the logistics of everything that goes to run at a center. So
and can I ask you, is that actually something helpful for people to know if they went to a center that wasn't necessarily called or labeled Maum meditation? Would they likely be referencing the individuals as helpers and students?
Yes, that is what they're called. So if you go to a center and the helper and they tell you that they're the helper, and it's just all the centers are the same. So, and they're still running like that. So for sure, if you know that the teachers or the managers are called helpers, and then their helpers are called students, but those students are completed, so they'll be helping you as well. They're basically like the same level as the helper. They're just learning more from the helper so that one day they can open their own center. But they've already went through the entire meditation process. Now they're just learning how to run a center.
Yeah. And part of the reason why I was asking is because I know, I know you have an amazing kind of resource list put together, Kathleen, of the different centers, but obviously as time has gone on, typical to lots of groups like this, they change their name. And so it's my understanding based on our conversation that actually people may walk into a Maum meditation center and not realize that that's what it is.
Yes. So in about I think it was like around 2017 or 2018, a couple years ago, they changed their name. They went through a rebranding where they completely removed the word Maum from their everything. So outside of their centers, it used to say Mom Meditation on their flyers, on their books, everything. Now you cannot see the word mom anywhere. So that is so that people won't, since people have spoken out about them, and some people have heard of Mom meditation potentially being a cult. So now they don't use mom anymore. And now they just say like meditation, so they'll say, they use very generic names. So they'll use like your city's name and then meditation. So they'll use like Los Angeles meditation, for example, or Santa Clara meditation.
Yeah.
And that's how they maintain secretive, because you don't know what type of meditation it is. And then you go to their website, there's nothing about Maum. Only until you get in person to the center, or I know they also do Zoom meetings too. They do it online. So only until you are actually on one-on-one with them, you'll find out that it's Maum meditation. And they probably won't even tell you at first until later on, once you're in level 1 and you're meditating more. And then you get into their teachings and their events, that you will find out that it's Maum meditation.
Okay, great. Yeah, thank you so much for that clarification. That's great to know. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so you and your mother kind of went at this time where you were, experiencing some challenges in life. And so this was meant to be something that was kind of healthy for the two of you to experience together.
Yes, exactly. So we went, and in the introduction, so they do a free introduction, and we went to the introduction, and it's basically just a class, but you're by yourself. It's not like more people. It's just you with the helper, and she gives you a class. And
I did not realize that.
really,
everything begins on one-to-one.
yes, one-on-one.
Oh,
They
fascinating.
say it's a seminar, but it's just one-on-one, like class.
Oh. And so then were you and your mother able to do it together?
Yes, we were able to do it together. Yes. Okay. But it's not with other people that you don't know. It's just you, or you with whoever you're trying to join with.
Okay.
And you're in this room with her, and they have a whiteboard in all of the centers, and she basically just gives you a little class about what Maum meditation is about, and tells you how we're all filled with what they call pictures, which pictures means all your remembered thoughts, everything you know about your life. Like if you think of your mom, you have a picture of her in your mind, or you see your mom. They say that all of that is fake, that's why you're unhappy, because your mind is just filled with trash, and that you should get rid of all that so that you could feel lighter. And and then in the moment, it kind of makes sense, because yes, in that moment you're going through things, so you're unhappy, and they're telling you that if you get rid of all those things in your mind, that you won't be unhappy anymore. So and then they have such a way to convince you, and just make you feel like everything. And then a lot of what they say, it's a little bit true, like everything that you go through, anxiety and everything, it's in your mind. So sometimes we drive ourselves crazy by overthinking and all of that, so everything correlates, and you're like, oh my god, that makes sense. So they the introduction's great. They they convince you, and they give you a little bit of a taste of what the meditation is like. So we do probably like 10 minutes, like an exercise of meditation in the free introduction, which obviously is not what they do later. The meditations that they do are just very explicit, intense, later on, once you're actually in. But this one's just very light and very nice and very pretty. So, and you feel better. You do feel better. So after that, then they speak to you about the cost that it is to join Maum meditation, because depending on where you live, it can range from $150 to $300. So for us, it was $150 and each, and that was back then too. So I'm not sure if it's more now, but I've heard that it's around, it could be up to 300. So,
and what do you get for that? What is that for?
So that it gives you like 7 days a week meditation. Well, it sounds like a great deal, right? Because you're like, okay, I'll pay $150 a month, and I get, I can go meditate all day, every day, because you can. But it is a great deal, but because you can go all day if you want to. But that's not healthy to go every day, all day. And that's what they eventually want you to do. So, and then since you're paying that money, you also feel like you should take advantage of it too. And if they have 7 days a week meditation, then you should probably go 7 days a week. And but it's not really um, up to you. You are, so they tell you you have to commit to that, to the 7 days a week. And then
Right
at
from the
first,
beginning in this
yes,
first time period. Oh, how interesting.
they tell you if you don't commit to the 7 days a week that it's not going to work. So you have to, at first you only go for 1 hour a day. So after work you go, you do like 1 hour meditation and you leave. And once you pass level 1 and you reach to level 2, because this is a levels meditation, so there's 7 levels. And once you reach level 2, then you have to go more. They tell you should come 2 hours and you should commit more. And by then you're already getting the brainwashing from them, so you start getting more involved. And you do feel better because you are meditating, so you are feeling a little bit better about your personal, what you're going through personally. But what they're doing is they're still preparing the land to, they're not honest about what they want from you in the end. So yeah, so basically you are supposed to go at first every day for an hour, and then you have to commit to going more hours
So
throughout.
interesting. And can I ask you, during this time, are you showing up kind of in a room where other people might be and it's silent, or is there any communication with the helper happening during this time?
So when we went, yes, the helper's always there. So she will always be there, and it's a guided meditation. So you don't just go and
Oh,
meditate on your own. You
okay.
always have to be guided by either the helper or the student. They tell you what to discard in your mind. So you're meditating and they're telling you what to do as you meditate. It's not, that would be nice if you could just go and meditate and they just kind of tell you what to do or teach you, and then you can just go do it on your own. No, every single day you go and they tell you, okay, today you're going to throw away. Well, I guess we'll talk a little bit more about the meditation method itself,
Yeah.
but they'll tell you each subject that they want you to discard from their mind. But also, I wanted to mention more about once, like the seminar or the first time when you go for the first time,
Yeah.
they do talk to you about the fee that it is $150 to $300 a month, and they also make you fill out a waiver, a liability waiver. So saying that they're not responsible for anything, which that I don't know how that wasn't a red flag for us. I think we just signed it without even paying attention to it, because you see this sweet lady telling you about this meditation, you're not going to think there's anything wrong, but you definitely sign a waiver and a form with all of your information, like we spoke earlier, your name, your address. You have to give them your credit card information. And it's not like you can just pay cash, like if you're kind of wanting to pay cash because you don't want to give your information, you have to give your credit card. And
Oh, interesting.
another thing is when you begin, so for them, we made it really easy for them because I went with my mom, so that was already doing two birds with one stone for
Yeah.
them. Since when you get there, they'll tell you to bring your family right away. They're like, bring your family, bring your family. They should come, so that all of you could be happy, not just you, because then your family's not going to be happy, and what's the point? So if so, for example, my mom's husband at the time, he was very religious. He was very traditional. He was not into it, so he didn't want to go. But he respected it. He was happy for us that we were doing something we liked, and so it ended up just being me and my mom that wanted to do it. And they were like, okay, so since they don't want to do it, then you have to focus on the meditation and not focus on them. And that's how they start wanting you to get away from your family, because they'll get in the way of your growth and your meditation process. So that's one thing about them.
Red flag, Kathleen, that whole dynamic where you just start to feel a division from people who are not doing what you're doing, yes.
Yeah. So that's an important thing about them, that at first they do want you to get your family involved, because you'll often read online, if you look up mom meditation testimonials, how like my mom disappeared. She went to a mom meditation. I don't even know where she is anymore. Like, they'll cut you off, but at first they do want your family to come,
Right.
but once they've tried and your family doesn't want to come, then that's it. You have to cut them off, because they're going to get in the way of your growth. So that's one thing that is really important about them, that really affects you and your family, because if they don't accept to come and give it a shot, then you need to just focus on mom meditation after that.
And so interesting that, I'm kind of tracking through your story, the relationship with the helper. I'm fascinated by that, because they have to become the main draw, right, to keep you there and to, move you along. So that relationship becomes really significant, I'm sure, in this dynamic. And just knowing parts of your story, I'm realizing, how intense that things kind of unfold, and that you're able to, stand up and speak directly. But we'll get to that.
Thank you. And that's one thing too about the helper. It's always, usually the helpers are older people. They've been in the meditation group for a long time, and they just, when you go, you almost feel like they're your mom. Like, you feel so attached to them. And it's funny, because this meditation is about detaching from everything about your life, everything you love, and your family, your friends, your everything, but you end up getting so attached to them. It's ironic that the meditation is about detaching from all of your personal life, your experiences, your family, your passions, everything, but you end up getting such a big attachment to the helpers and the mom meditation and the center and the members. So, and they'll tell you, that the reason you're not happy is because of all the attachments you have, but they end up creating such a big attachment with, mom meditation itself. So that's going to be the only attachment you're left with in the end.
That is so brilliantly put and astutely put, because this is what tends to happen in groups like this, right? Is we actually end up, there's a dependency that gets created on the group leader or the group information, the group belief system. And in that process, actually, the individual, without even really realizing it, becomes infantilized, like a child.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's honestly, it's sometimes I think about it and I'm like, they're genius. Like, how did they come up with this? Because it's just, everything is thought out, and they explain it so well to make you think, like, that makes so much sense. What they're saying about all of my pictures in my mind, and my mind is just so full of everything from like birth to now. I need to get rid of all that, because there's no point in having that in your mind. But in the end, that includes, your family. Like, I think it's natural for you to have an attachment to your mom, to your siblings, to your passions, what you like, activities, to your pets. And they'll tell you that all of that, you just need to get rid of all that, because that's cluttering your mind. So I think that's also another good segue to talk about the method itself, and
Yes.
what what they'll tell you and what you're going to do in Maum meditation once you join and you start doing all the levels. So when you go initially, you'll get the seminar and they'll give you a little taste of what it's like. But mainly the method is about throwing away everything in your mind. So they'll tell you, like I mentioned, that your mind is cluttered and you should get rid of everything that's in your mind. But they won't tell you that in the beginning, like, oh, you need to get rid of everything. No, they'll first tell you like all of those bad things you're going through right now. Like if you're going through sadness, depression, anxiety, like it's because those things are affecting you. So let's throw those things away. So it sounds great, like, oh my God, I can throw away my depression. Like, that's great, But in reality, the method itself is throwing everything away, absolutely everything from your family, your friends, your job, your career, your passions, absolutely everything. So each level, it's for example, level 1 will focus on, throwing away all of your past experiences and your memories. So the method itself, you will sit down and they'll make you close your eyes and imagine a black hole. At first, this is what the method is, a black hole of the universe. And you'll think of a picture of, let's say they'll tell you, okay, bring up a picture of your mom. Who's your mom? And whatever comes to your mind, you will throw away in the black hole. The black hole is like a vacuum, they say. Yes. So the black hole will suck everything in until you're left with no picture of your mother. So, and then it sounds kind of silly talking about it, because now that I'm out, I'm like, how did I fall for this? But when you're doing this, for each topic, you have to do it about 5,000 times. So when you're doing this all day, and so many times for each topic, like your family 5,000 times, your friends 5,000 times, throwing away those same pictures, because obviously they'll come back to your mind. So you'll throw them away. And it is honestly a brainwashing. You start getting detached slowly from those things. So also, in the next levels, it's not just throwing them away in the black hole. For example, in level 2, you'll start killing your family. So you'll imagine chopping your mom's head off and then throwing acid on top of her. So you're completely...
how interesting that they use such violent imagery to do that, because honestly, you could do the death thing without the violent imagery. That is so intense.
Yes, you'll imagine like a big chopping board and like an axe, and you'll put your mother's head on there, lay her there, and chop her head off.
Oh my!
So I remember one time my mom was doing the meditation, and we often did it together, but a lot of times we did it separately. But one time we were doing it together, and we were chopping each other's head off in the meditation. That's what our guide was telling us to do. So my mom started crying. This was in the beginning. She started crying because she was like, how am I supposed to chop my kid's head off? I know it's not, like I'm doing it in physically, but I can't even picture that in my mind. So she was crying about it, and they were telling her, like that means she's actually doing it from the heart if it's affecting her this much. And they were saying, but you're not actually killing your daughter. You're killing the image, the pictures you have of her. And, that makes sense, because obviously I was sitting right next to her. She wasn't doing it for real, but you are meant to, kill all of your attachments completely. So
that's so intense though, Kathleen, because also, this is the power actually of meditation, right? Is that we're visualizing something, it's internal. And that sometimes can be way more powerful than a regular life experience, because it's you with yourself in your own experience. And I assume in these experiences, just as you expressed with your mother, there are feelings that go along with this, right? And so there really is a creation of something that is transpiring. And so there's a realness to it for that individual experiencing it. This is not play, it may, again, for outsiders, and certainly I know this world where, this is not, it's not play. There really is something internally that happens to an individual when they visualize and are guided through different intense internal experiences. I mean, that our internal world is real. So it's a very powerful thing, actually. And wow, that is okay.
It's honestly really intense. And that's why they don't start off with that. At first they start with the black hole because it's just not as explicit. But once you finish level 1, then you're already more into it. You're feeling lighter, obviously, because you're throwing everything away. And once you start level 2 and level 3, then you start doing the more explicit things. You start chopping people's head off and throwing acid on people. And they just tell you that, if you ever question them, they'll tell you, like, you're not actually doing it to the person, you're doing to the image of you that you have of that person. So they have the perfect answers for everything in the end. They know what to say. They've been trained to make everything make sense. And sometimes, because my mom was also, I mentioned her husband was pretty traditional, like Christian.
Yeah.
She was also Christian. She wasn't like that traditional, but she believes in God and all of that. So she told them that she told them that she's she believes in God and Jesus and all of that. That's how she grew up. And then they also, that's one thing to know as well, they have a way of applying the meditation to every belief. Yeah. So if you're atheist, they'll find a way to apply it to that. But I remember them telling my mom that they also believe in the Bible. They mainly told my mom that because I wasn't really expressing that I was too religious or anything like that. But my mom, she was expressing that to them, that she was she always grew up in the church. So they'll tell, I remember them telling her, this is what the Bible has called us to do as well. And they told her that Jesus, how the Bible says something about repenting your sins, from your sins, and that's how you can go to heaven. And and there's and then how the Bible mentions about being born again, as like once you repent. So they're saying when Jesus said that he means what we're doing in the meditation, to throw away all your pictures and all your attachments which equal to sin. And once you throw everything away, you're going to be reborn. And just like the Bible says, but you're going to be reborn, as a new person with no attachments, no pictures, with knowing anything. So that's one tactic as well that they use. Like, no matter if you're Catholic, Christian, atheist, or any belief system you come in, they say this meditation is for everybody. And it really is. They have a way to apply it to every belief system.
Interesting. And can I ask you, not to backtrack, but I believe you made some reference when you were talking about the, each thing that you're releasing, that it repeats 500 times or what have you. Is that something that you're also kind of practicing throughout the day?
Yes. So not in the beginning. In the beginning, you're only meditating when you go to the center. So in level 1, you're only going, about 1 hour a day. And in level 2, you start going a little more, but you're only meditating when you're there being guided. So in level 3, sometimes level 4, but it starts as early as level 3, they introduce something that's called action meditation. So they'll teach you how to meditate with your eyes open so that you can start doing it all day. And, at any time, if you're cooking, you're meditating, you're throwing away all of your attachments. And this is when you start getting more involved in the center as well, because they introduce it and they teach you how to do it by you coming to the center and cleaning the center, and they'll show you how to, do the meditation while you're doing things. So you'll start cleaning, cooking, and that's when you also start doing the flyer distribution while you're meditating. So that's how they introduce.
Interesting. Again, brilliant, right? You're getting free labor while teaching people how to actively meditate during tasks.
Exactly. Exactly. So that's how they start getting you more involved, and they start getting you to be more time in the center, and how you start recruiting other people as well, since you're going out and doing flyer distribution as an action meditation for the day. So, and then when you reach to that level, which is whether it's 3 or 4, then, they'll tell you that the action meditation should take up 2/3 of your time, and sitting meditation only 1/3 of your time. So, like half of your day, you're meditating, whether you're, at school, you're going to be meditating, whether you're in the bus or at home doing chores, anything, you're throwing everything away. And not only your past attachments, but your current attachments too. For example, if you're still in school, and if, you're at school, you're throwing away your school as you're there. So you're throwing everything away, and you start doing that like 12 hours a day you're meditating. So that's how the more intense meditation comes in later on in the levels. It just starts getting more and more intense as the levels go.
Well, and that alone is so intense, because what's happening also in that process is complete detachment from anything other, right?
Yes.
And that's honestly an internal split that's being created, where the individual no longer, it's a training to no longer even feel or have any sort of feelings or investment in anything other.
Exactly.
And also, and of course there's the personal element, right? So because you're dealing with things that are emotional attachments during the day or throughout the day, in shutting that off or putting it in the black hole or whatever it is, there's also really a complete bypassing happening of feelings, right? Which are natural and which give us information that's actually really important. It's part of how we know we're being violated,
Mm-hmm.
So all of those senses are methodically being shut down.
Exactly. Yeah. And you definitely, now that I'm out, I did see all those things. I do see all those things now, that I was becoming so like a robot, like everything, I felt so like cold after, doing it for 2 years. Because anytime I felt like an emotion, if I felt a little sad because I saw a sad video, which is natural, I will just throw it away, like right away, to not even feel that emotion. Or if I was, feeling excited about something, they teach you even excitement or even sadness, everything, you need to throw it away. Those are not real. You're living in the picture world, is what they say. So yes. Everything that you start going through, which are natural things, we're human, we're supposed to feel, we're supposed to be sad sometimes if we go through something that's sad or angry or anything. So they'll tell you to throw all of that away. So that's how I felt after a while. And in that moment, I felt like, it's working. I'm not feeling anything anymore. Obviously, I still felt things. You're human. You're always gonna feel things, and that's one thing that's so deceiving about them is that they promise you. They always promise you that if you finish the meditation till the end, you're gonna be complete. And if you're complete, if you reach human completion, you're not going to be able to feel any emotion anymore. You're never going to feel sad again. You're always going to feel happy and content, and they always use the example like if my mom died and I didn't feel sadness at all. So, and then you just think of it like, how is that possible? Like, that's not natural. But they're like, because those feelings are not the reality. The reality is just that she had to pass, and that's fine, and you just feel content no matter what. So, and that's just not a natural way of being. We're born with these feelings for a reason. That's what makes humans unique from, for example, animals. And I also feel like maybe animals also have feelings, but that's what makes us, I would say, like, superior than like the species. We have emotions, we have critical thinking, and we can feel things. So it's not a bad thing to feel emotions.
Right. Yeah. Oh, it's so intense. And honestly, Kathleen, I can very much relate to that actually personally, because in my group where I was there for 11 years, and over the course of that time, there were many, many instances where somebody who was, devoted in the group had a parent that was dying, a relative that was dying. I mean, I missed the funerals of my grandparents, but literally people who missed a parent passing when they could have been there. And because of the you just described it perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
And within that context and that mentality, people actually did not have that experience. And then, I think this is a great example of kind of what brainwashing actually is, right? Because we do know that once out of the environment, individuals are able to return to themselves, right?
Yeah.
So in that regard, brainwashing, quote unquote, isn't real. But within the context, it most certainly is. I mean, to see that people would behave this way, and then upon leaving, I mean, the grief that comes with some of those decisions, right? Of having, been in that kind of detached state that within the group is supposed to be highly elevated. That often there are just so many regrets that people have from the results of that process.
Exactly. It's
Yes.
honestly really hard. After you're like you said, yeah, like now that I'm out, I still have all of my emotions. And I also, part of me thinks even when I was in, I was still human, I still felt them, but you're just in this routine to think, that's not real, that's not real. So you don't even know what's real anymore. So you just throw everything away and just create this like false heaven that they teach. They teach that, once all the detachments are out, then you are in heaven. So, but now that I'm out, I'm like, you know I can't even believe sometimes how I was at that moment. But like you said, in the end, it wasn't real, because now I'm still me. I still feel everything that I feel, but in that moment, it's like you're almost like reprogrammed to just live that way. So
Yes.
your daily life, you're like making it stay how it's supposed to stay.
Right, which is why all the external forces get shut out, right? Because then it's easier to do that in the context. Oh my gosh. Yeah, thank you for sharing all of that. Okay, so we were on the level progression.
Yes. So so basically the important thing is, to know, like, each level has a lot that we can talk about each level, but I guess just like a rundown is, in level 3 and 4, the most important thing is that, you get introduced to action meditation, like we said. So now, you're not just meditating 1 hour a day, you're meditating, 12 hours a day, so also level 4 for me, that's where I left the group, but I did reach level 4. So each level, it could take months depending on how much you're meditating, how committed you are. If you're only meditating 1 hour a day every day, that's not a lot for them. So it might take you months to pass level 1, even though that may sound like a lot to people, like, but that's every day. You have to go every single day. It's not that much for them. They're there like all day, 24/7. So if you start going 5 hours a day, then that's when they start feeling like you're more committed and you can pass through the levels quicker. But for me, it took 2 years to reach level 4 because I had a life. I was a student. I worked, and my mom too. So we were mainly going an hour a day, and then starting going like a couple of hours a day, but not really passing like 3 hours a day, honestly. So that's why it took us a little while to reach level 4. So the important thing about level 4 is that this is where, I guess, bluntly to put it, is this is where you have to accept the founder as your God. You have to recognize them as God. So, and this is where the cult aspects of the group start becoming more apparent. Since in the beginning, you're kind of just focusing on throwing everything away. But like I said, that was like prepping the land for them to introduce you to the founder, which his name is Wum Young. And in this level, you've already, and you also, like I mentioned, my mom was, kind of Christian. My family, her husband was Christian. So, you also, in the levels, you're meant to throw away Jesus and kill him and everything. So, you can imagine how that is kind of hard for somebody that's grown up to believe that, that's God, and all of the beliefs, so, and by the time you reach level 4, you're a little bit more detached from all those things. And each level has a confirmation question that you have to pass. So if you don't pass them, then you're meant to go back and continue to meditate until you reach that enlightenment. And if you do reach it, honestly, it's really magical. In that moment, you feel like, oh my God, like I reached it, like all your hard work is being paid off the moment you go to the next level. And you have a party every time, like a little party with them every time you pass to the next level. And it's just very celebrated to, like, for you to want to continue. So in level 4, um, uh, you're still throwing away all your remembered thoughts, and each level takes longer because you're still throwing away your thoughts from birth, but now you're adding flyer distribution, and you're adding a new topic. So back then maybe you were just throwing away your family and your friends, but now you're throwing away like your career, attachments to money, attachments to your home, or to success and all of that, because they say that's what you think is success is not really what success is. So you have to throw away your thought of what success means. So it takes longer because you're still throwing away your thoughts from birth and your attachments, but now you're adding more things to the list. So it starts taking longer and longer as you go. But so basically in level 4, this level is important because in this level you're throwing away everything in your mind, and until it's empty, until everything is empty. So this means you're throwing away the universe as well. Your picture of what the universe looks like. So once you throw away the universe, there's nothing, right? So the confirmation question is, what's left? Whose kingdom is this that now you're finding, and everything leads to it being Wom Young, and that's the correct answer to that. Wom Young is the owner of the universe, and if you think about it, it kind of makes sense because you've been creating this universe, this kingdom, this entire time as you're meditating, because you're throwing away all of your perception of what the world is like and what the universe is, because those are all of your pictures of what the universe is, but that's not the real universe. So they'll make you throw all that away, and then you end up with Wom Young's kingdom, which is the real true universe, which is the empty universe.
So wild, Kathleen. And I want to ask you, might this be a good time, if you don't mind sharing this, to describe a little bit about your process and kind of what was happening for you around this whole thing?
Yes. So when I reached level 4 is when I decided to leave the cult, because I guess for it to make sense, as I was going through the levels, there was not a helper, a student in my center that was leaving the group, and he talked to me because we were kind of like friends. Yeah. And before he left, he talked to me and told me, that I guess because I was approaching level 4, that he was leaving, and then he told me all of the truth of what he knows. He was a completed person, so he had reached human completion, and he told me that they're going to make me accept Wom Young as the founder and owner of the universe. So I didn't believe him, because everything that they've taught since the beginning for the last 2 years of my life was, we're not a religious organization. We're here to throw everything away, like everything, and even Jesus, even all the gods, Buddha, anybody that you believe in, you'll throw them away, So how would they make you think that Wom Young is God? It just did not make sense. It was impossible.
And it's so amazing that conversation actually took place. I mean, now in retrospect, is it just kind of mind blowing, like that one gift opened something, that maybe who knows? Anyway, please continue. My goodness.
For sure. No, now I do think that it was like, I feel very lucky that I had that person to help me, because in the moment I was angry. I defended the group, like wholeheartedly. I was like, there's no way that's gonna happen, throw that away. I told him, throw your pictures away, because there's no way. So, but he planted a seed in me that I feel like once I reached level 4, and I was asked who's the owner of the universe, and I knew that all answers, like everything was leading for me to answer Wom Young is the universe. I was like, that's crazy. And I couldn't believe that what he said was becoming true in that moment when I was going to level 4. So he told me, that to pass level 4, he was like, to pass level 4, you're going to have to recognize that Wom Young is the universe and the owner of the universe. So that's one thing he told me. And he also said to reach human completion in the end, because that's one thing that you long for throughout the beginning. You want to reach human completion, because that's when you're truly going to be happy, and you're going to be your true self, which is an empty person, no feelings, no nothing. And they don't tell you that once you are approaching human completion, you have to pay around $10,000 to become complete. So that's what he told me. He was like, you're not going to be able to complete yourself unless you pay $10,000 in the end. And you're not going to know this until you reach level 7, which is the last level before human completion.
And apologies for this somewhat abrupt ending to part 1 of Kathleen on Maum meditation. Please join us next week for part 2.